Greetings in the name of the Most High Yahuwah and his Son, Yahusha, to the 12 tribes that are scattered abroad. I am Brother Hiram, and in this video I am going to bring to you part 2 of the series, which I have entitled, Are We Being Partial in the Torah? Rethinking Deuteronomy chapter 24, verses 1 through 4. And we are going to continue talking about the Torah and the prophets on divorce and remarriage. Now in part 1 we talked about the Torah, and here in part 2 we're going to talk about the prophets. Thus saith Yahuwah, Where is the bill of your mother's divorcement whom I have put away? Or which of my creditors is it to whom I have sold you? Behold, for your iniquities ye have sold yourselves, and for your transgressions is your mother put away. Isaiah chapter 50, verse 1. If a man puts away his wife, and she goes from him and becomes another man's, does he return to her again? Would not that land be made greatly unclean? But ye have committed whoring with many lovers, and would ye return to me, declares Yahuwah? That's from Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 1, and that's out of the Hallelujah Scriptures. And I saw that for all the causes for which backsliding Israel had committed adultery, I had put away and given her a certificate of divorce, yet her treacherous sister Yehuda did not reverence, but went and committed whoring too. Verse 8. Go and proclaim these words towards the north, and say, Return, O backsliding Israel, declares Yahuwah. I shall not look on you in displeasure, for I am kind, declares Yahuwah, and I do not bear a grudge forever. And that is verse 12. So, what we see here clearly, that the Most High divorced Israel, put her away with the bill of divorce because of her whoredoms, because of her adulteries. And now he's asking the question, and this is based upon Deuteronomy 24, verse 4, that if a man puts away his wife, she goes from him and becomes another man's, does he return to her again? Would not that land be made greatly unclean? And he mentions how that not just with one, but with many lovers, that Israel went a-whoring. And now it's formulated as a question, and would ye return to me, declares Yahuwah? And this is how the Hallelujah Scriptures brought it out. So apparently they believe that in the Hebrew text, it's supposed to be a question, whereas that's just made a statement in some translations. But nonetheless, in verse 12 at the bottom, we see the Most High making an appeal to Israel to come back, even after committing whoring with many lovers. The beginning of the word of Yahuwah by Hosea. And Yahuwah said to Hosea, Go take unto thee a wife of whoredoms and children of whoredoms, for the land hath committed great whoredom, departing from Yahuwah. So he went and took Gomer, the daughter of Diblaim, which conceived and bare him a son. And Yahuwah said unto him, Call his name Jezreel, for yet a little while, and I will avenge the blood of Jezreel upon the house of Jehu, and will cause to cease the kingdom of the house of Israel. And it shall come to pass at that day that I will break the bow of Israel in the valley of Jezreel. That's Hosea chapter 1, verses 3 through 5. And she conceived again and bare a daughter. And Elohim said unto him, Call her name Lo Ruhamah, for I will no more have mercy upon the house of Israel, but I will utterly take them away. But I will have mercy upon the house of Judah, and will save them by Yahuwah their Elohim, and will not save them by bow, nor by sword, nor by battle, by horses, nor by horsemen. This is verses 6 through 7 of the same chapter. Now when she had weaned Lo Ruhamah, she conceived and bare a son. Then said Elohim, call his name Lo-Ami, for you are not my people, and I will not be your Elohim. This is verses 8 and 9. Now, as I highlighted here, notice how when Jezreel was born, it said she conceived and bare him a son. She bore Hosea a son in Jezreel. But with Lo-Ruhamah, it says she conceived again and bare a daughter. And with Lo-Ami, it says she conceived and bare a son. And so we're going to see why it reads like that. Say ye unto your brethren Ami, and to your sisters Ruhamah. This is Hosea chapter 2, verse 1. Plead with your mother. Plead, for she is not my wife, neither am I her husband. Let her therefore put away her whoredoms out of her sight, and her adulteries from between her breasts. Verse 2. Lest I strip her naked and set her as in the day she was born, and make her as a wilderness, and set her like a dry land, and slay her with thirst. Verse 3. And I will not have mercy upon her children, for they be the children of whoredoms. Verse 4. For their mother hath played the harlot, she that conceived them hath done shamefully, for she said, I will go after my lovers, that give me my bread and my water, my wool and my flax, mine oil and my drink. And that's verse 5. So we see the reason why it said that she bore to Hosea Jezreel, but she just bore a daughter in Lo-Ruhamah and bore a son in Lo-Ami, because these were children of whoredoms. Ami and Ruhamah were children of whoredoms. She had these children by other men while she was with Hosea. She had 2 children by other men. And that's why it said, plead with your mother about her whoredoms, her adulteries, and that he will not have mercy on her children, for they be the children of whoredoms. Mothers played the harlot and conceived them. Then said Yahuwah unto me, go yet, love a woman beloved of her friend, yet an adulteress, according to the love of Yahuwah toward the children of Israel, who look to other Elohim and love flagons of wine. And that's Hosea chapter 3, verse 1. So what we see from here is that this is the same woman here. This is Gomer. This is the same woman, and he's taking her back. And the way that we know this is that this is to be a parallel of Yah's dealing with Israel, as we see in the verse here. So I bought her to me for 15 pieces of silver, and for an homer of barley, and for an half a homer of barley. This is verse 2 of chapter 3. And so apparently she was sold into slavery. Perhaps she was a concubine, but he had to buy her back. He redeemed her. And I said unto her, thou shalt abide for me many days. Thou shalt not play the harlot, and thou shalt not be for another man. So will I also be for thee. Verse 3. For the children of Israel shall abide many days without a king, and without a prince, and without a sacrifice, and without an image, and without an ephod, and without teraphim. Afterward shall the children of Israel return and seek Yahuwah their Elohim, and David their king, and shall fear Yahuwah and his goodness in the latter days. Verse 4. Did Hosea divorce Gomer? The beginning of the word of Yahuwah by Hosea, and Yahuwah said to Hosea, go take a wife of whoredoms and children of whoredoms, for the land hath committed great whoredom in departing from Yahuwah. It's Hosea chapter 1, verse 2. Now, I know we're going back over this verse, but you see that my emphasis is different here. I'm emphasizing where it says that for the land hath committed great whoredom, departing from Yahuwah. So this is the first indicator that we see that Hosea's situation is to parallel Yahuwah's situation in dealing with Israel. Say ye unto your brethren Ami, and to your sisters Ruhamah, plead with your mother, plead, for she is not my wife, neither am I her husband. Let her therefore put away her whoredoms out of her sight, and her adulteries from between her breasts. Now, what's going on here? Now, this is Yahuwah speaking. But at the same time, we see somewhat of a blending of Hosea's situation and Yahuwah's situation with Israel, because they are parallel. So this is verses 1 and 2 out of Hosea 2. That's what's going on here in this chapter. And I will not have mercy upon her children, for they be the children of whoredoms. This is verse 4. Again, this is Yahuwah speaking about his situation with Israel, but at the same time, it parallels Hosea's situation with Gomer. And so from this, we see with Lo-Ami and Lo-Ruhamah being children of whoredoms, that as the Most High did not have mercy on Israel, that Hosea did not have mercy on Gomer as a result of that. And as the Most High cut Israel off to the point of her not being his wife and him not being her husband, so Hosea cut Gomer off to the point of her not being his wife and him not being her husband. Then said Yahuwah unto me, Go, yet love a woman beloved of her friend, yet an adulteress according to the love of Yahuwah toward the children of Israel, who look to other mighty ones and love flagons of wine. So I bought her to me for 15 pieces of silver, and for an homer of barley, and for an half homer of barley. Now, this is Hosea chapter 3, verses 1 and 2. So as you see, I have highlighted an adulteress according to the love of Yahuwah toward the children of Israel. This is how we know that it's Gomer. This is how we know that Hosea is receiving back a woman who he let go because of her whoredoms, because she committed whoredoms right up under his nose. Remember, she bore him Jezreel, but Lo-Ami and Lo-Ruhamah were children of whoredoms. The names Lo-Ami and Lo-Ruhamah, which means not my people and no mercy, applied equally to Hosea and the Most High. Like Israel, for a season, Gomer did not receive mercy, and she was no longer Hosea's wife. Apparently, Gomer needed to be redeemed or bought back. In order for her to be sold into slavery or concubinage, no one else could have had a legal claim on her. She had to have been released. So, given the circumstances, you can't just, sell someone else's wife on the market. You can't just sell somebody's wife as a concubine. No. Hosea could not have had a legal claim on her in order for her to be sold like that. He had to have released her. And so we see that this was a perfect parallel to the Most High situation with Israel, that the Most High did not have mercy on Israel. The Most High divorced Israel, put her away with the bill of divorce, and for a season, the Most High declared that Israel's not his wife and he is not her husband. And so we see that it's a perfect parallel with Hosea, that Gomer committed whoredoms right under his nose, and for a season, Gomer did not receive mercy. Hosea put her out. He put her away with a bill of divorce and thereby released his legal claim on her so that she could be sold as a concubine. And then after divorcing her for her whoredoms, and she goes out and further becomes defiled, that he receives her back. According to the love of Yahuwah toward the children of Israel, he receives her back as his wife. So yes, Hosea, according to all the internal evidence that I have presented to you here, yes, Hosea did divorce Gomer, just like the Most High divorced Israel. Judah hath dealt treacherously, and an abomination is committed in Israel and in Jerusalem. For Judah hath profaned the Kodashah of Yahuwah, which he loved, and hath married the daughter of a strange mighty one. This is Malachi chapter 2, verse 11. And this here is coming right off the heels of what I mentioned in the intro, where the priests, they caused people to stumble in the Torah, and they were partial in the Torah. And right after we read about that is this right here. And so we see that this, what we're reading here, what we're getting ready to read, this is the fruit of those priests being partial in the Torah. Yahuwah will cut off the man that doeth this, the master and the scholar, out of the tabernacles of Jacob, and him that offereth an offering unto Yahuwah of hosts. Verse 12. And this have ye done, covering the altar of Yahuwah with tears, with weeping, and with crying out, insomuch that he regardeth not the offering any more, or receiveth it with goodwill at your hand. Verse 13. Yet ye say, wherefore? Because Yahuwah hath been witness between thee and the wife of thy youth, against whom thou hast dealt treacherously, yet is she thy companion and the wife of thy covenant. Verse 14. And did not he make one? Yet had he the residue of the Spirit, and wherefore one? That he might seek a Yah-like seed. Therefore take heed to your spirit, and let none deal treacherously against the wife of his youth. Verse 15. And so my point here, once again, is that we see support for marriage permanence. And we see the application of Yah's creational universal law of marriage, where it says, and did not he make one? See, this is the reason why it was wrong. This is the reason why it was wrong for them to divorce the wife of thy covenant and to remarry these heathen women that worshipped other mighty ones. For Yahuwah, the Elohim of Israel, saith that he hateth putting away. For one covereth violence with his garment, saith Yahuwah of hosts. Therefore take heed to your spirit, that ye deal not treacherously. Verse 16. Now I know some want to say that it only says he hates putting away. It doesn't say he hates divorce. But if we look at the context here, the reason why this was wrong is because the oneness that Yah created was attempted to be broken, because he made them one, and that was the wife of his covenant. And so Yah's problem with these men wasn't that they didn't have their divorce papers in order, but it was because they were being treacherous toward the wife of their youth, the wife of their covenant, forsaking them for these heathen women, divorcing them and remarrying these heathen women that worship other mighty ones. Now, I want to be fair also and include an alternative reading of this, because there are some who contest the textual accuracy of the statement that he hates putting away or he hates divorce. And I have seen this as an alternative reading from the text. It says, but if thou shouldest hate thy wife and put her away, saith Yahuwah Elohim of Israel, then wickedness shall cover thy thoughts, saith Yahuwah Almighty. Therefore take ye heed to your spirit and forsake them not. And that's verse 16 again. That's from Brenton's Septuagint. And so this is an alternative reading of this same verse. But whether it says he hateth putting away, or if thou shouldest hate thy wife and put her away, either way it is supposed to be read, the message is clear. that the Most High Yahuwah made the man and the wife of his youth, the wife of his covenant, one, although he put her away to marry the daughter of a strange mighty one. So he made them one. So we see even here in Malachi the confirmation of Yah's creational universal law of marriage, the confirmation of marriage permanence. Summarizing the Torah and the prophets on divorce and remarriage. Yahuwah gave the creational universal law of marriage from the beginning. Yahuwah explicitly enforced this law in two different occasions in the Torah, showing that it is not just an ideal. Divorce was a reality in Israel before Deuteronomy 24 and was unfavorable for women. Yahuwah divorced Israel, yet he set the example not of divorce and remarriage to another, but of divorce and reconciliation. Yahuwah commanded Hosea to demonstrate this same example in his marriage to Gomer. Yahuwah rebukes a divorce remarriage scenario through Malachi the prophet and confirms his creational universal law of marriage in stating that he made the man and his covenant wife one. So far, nothing in the Torah or the prophets contradicts the creational universal law of marriage that Yahuwah gave in the beginning. So that was my whole point in parts 1 and parts 2, that we wanted to put Deuteronomy 24, 1 through 4 on the shelf, look at the rest of the Torah, look at the prophets, and see whether or not there's anything in there that contradicts Yah's creational universal law of marriage. And we see that there is nothing that contradicts it. We see support. We see full support of marriage permanence in the Torah and in the prophets. Now, I did ask earlier that if anybody finds that I left out anything that Yah himself said regarding divorce and remarriage, to feel free to bring it to my attention. Let me throw this in as well. Okay, I'm talking about something that is clearly a divorce situation. I'm not talking about concubines. I'm not talking about slave law or concubinage law, because I know that may be what some of you are thinking at this point, Exodus 21. But we have to understand that concubines and wives were dealt with differently. We do not see concubines being divorced in the scriptures. We see them either being let go or being sold. But a wife, bone of your bone, flesh of your flesh, the one who he makes you one with, that we see that being dealt with on a different level. So, if there's anything in the Torah or the prophets that you find, you as the listener, that you find I have missed, that the Most High himself said about divorce or divorce and remarriage, then please bring it to my attention. Challenge questions. Number 1, apart from Deuteronomy chapter 24, 1 through 4, is there any other mention of remarriage after divorce in the Torah? Number 2, do you believe Yahuwah would deal with hard-hearted men so firmly in Deuteronomy chapter 22, verses 19 and 29, then in Deuteronomy 24, 1 through 4, command, instruct, or approve of hard-hearted men having their way? Number 3, does Yahuwah break his own law in Jeremiah 3, 12 and 14 by offering to receive backslidden and adulterous Israel back after having divorced her? Number 4, did Hosea violate the Torah in receiving back his adulterous, defiled wife after he divorced her? Whether your answer is yes or no, explain your answer. Number 5, seeing that the creational universal law of marriage is confirmed in both the Torah and the prophets, does it make sense that Yahuwah would give a law in Deuteronomy chapter 24, 1 through 4 that would contradict it? And so here is my whole point that I've been trying to make in parts 1 and part 2. That the Torah and the prophets, apart from Deuteronomy 24 verses 1 through 4, they set the stage. They set the broader context for us to go into Deuteronomy 24, 1 through 4, and to see what it's really saying. And so I believe that that is a fair question. I believe it's a good question. That we see confirmation of the creational universal law of marriage in the remainder of the Torah and in the prophets. So does it make sense that Yahuwah would give a law in Deuteronomy chapter 24, 1 through 4 that would contradict it? This ends part 2 of the series, Are We Being Partial in the Torah?